Hey y'all. I got a couple comments asking about how I figure out where to go fish. And so I figured I'd do a quick demonstration on what I do before I actually go out and go fishing. I don't typically just, get the boat, launch it, and then figure out where I'm going to go. I typically have a plan ahead of time. Now, I can only typically go on the weekends normally, unless I have a day off. But there are a couple of things that I do beforehand, like during the week or, on Friday night to figure out where I think the fish will be. So I pick a specific area. Don't think of it as picking specific spots because a lot of times when you go out there, you can look at it on the map all day long and it's a good way to find structure in places, that you think fish will be. But it always looks different when you get out in the water. Now, keep in mind, I am not a professional guide, nor am I a professional fisherman by any means, but I feel like I've gotten a lot better at figuring out where the fish are going to be based on the tides, the area, and the weather. So this is how I figure out where to go fish.
All right. Typically, before I go fishing, I check a couple websites. I try to determine, where I think the fish will be at a given time or what they're doing based on the weather, the tides, and, where I feel like fishing. The first one I like to go to is called Tides for Fishing. This website's nice because it gives you the weather, the tides, all the information you need to figure out what's happening the weekend or the day before you go fishing. Don't worry, I'll leave all the links to these in the description below. So when you go to here, you go up top, you can search for your location. I'm going by St. Augustine. All right, so we're going to check out Saturday. Here's the weather forecast. So we have dropping pressure. That's cool. Not crazy drop, but whatever. Fish seem to like it when it's a dropping pressure. Gives them a little bit of relief. The sun's going to be out. It's only going to be 51 to high is 66 degrees, not until the afternoon. So I think I might go around after 12, depending on what the tide's doing. Winds are pretty light, so that's nice. I have more options of where I want to go. We'll scroll down here. Water temperature still about 63. That's decent. It's consistent. This is out near coastal though, so when the sun comes up, I think that's going to make me want to go and fish either a flat or go back in the back of the creeks because the shallower water warms up faster because we have a lot of dark mud here. When the sun's on it, it warms up faster, especially if it's not windy. All right, swell height. We're not going offshore. You scroll down and you have your tides. All right, and they also have this cool thing here of a fish activity at the bottom. Help you kind of plan your day out. So we got a high tide at 7:26 in the morning, low tide at 1:51. I like fishing the lower quarter of the tide because the fish are concentrated, easier to find them, and I can see all the structure in the place I'm going to if I'm going back into creeks and stuff. So this is nice. Also, based on the lunar activity, that's how they determine whether the fish are going to be active or not. It's going to be really active right before dead low tide. That's awesome because it's really easy to figure out what fish are doing. They're going to be ambushing stuff coming by structure, whether it be creek mouths, oyster bars, all that. And they have to come off the flat because the water around here, the tides are swings so high, like 4 to 6 feet usually, that in certain areas they have to empty out of the flat, and they know the bait fish does too. So they'll stage up and wait for the bait fish to come off the flat and ambush them. So that's why outgoing tide's a lot easier, I think. Also the very beginning of incoming. Anyway, so this tells me I want to go around 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning to get that last bit of outgoing and maybe the very beginning of incoming. That's awesome. Next site I like going to is the Lunar Forecast and Predictions. Now, this shows you the best time that animals are typically active based on the lunar cycles, lunar phases and everything. Fish and animals are more active at the full moon when it's straight above and straight below. They also get a little bit more active when it's rising and falling. So it's going to be the 17th. So I'll scroll down. Here's Saturday right here. So yeah, it looks like we got a new moon coming up. So a couple days before the new moon or the full moon are typically better. Now we're going to have larger tide swings because of the moon phase, but that's okay because it shows it being a little bit better. And the major time is going to be noon o'clock to 2 o'clock, that kind of thing. So that lines up with the other report that we saw. So that's great. Don't use this as the only time to go out. Use this more as a guide. So you look at the tide, you look at the lunar, and you look at the weather. And when all three of those things line up, that just means that's going to be a little bit better than it would be, I think. Don't only go at these specific times. Just think of it as it could be a little bit better. All right, next website is Google Earth. I like going to Google Earth. Don't confuse it with Google Maps. Google Maps is different. Google Earth, now they have a web version, has this nifty little timeline here. If you click on this historical imagery, you'll be presented with this timeline across the top, and it allows you to go through and look at different satellite images based on the date. This is cool because you see this image right here is most recent. This was April 25. This is at a higher tide. Well, I can't see the structure. How do I know where I'm going and what I want to fish? So you start hitting this back arrow until you get an image at a lower, I was taken at a lower tide. That way you can see the structure. You can see how the current affects the structure in the bottom. You can also possibly tell if your boat can even fit back there or not at a dead low tide. So just keep going backwards. Oh, here's a good one. All right, so December 2018. So it's not going to be exact, but it's close enough. These don't change that much. Now, this is not the creek that I'm going to. I'm not going to show you exact spots that I'm fishing, but this is in the Northeast Florida area, so it's going to be very similar. So we're going to be fishing the lower part of the tide, so you look for holes like this. You look for corners and structure. The best thing is if you find a creek mouth like this that has oyster bars around it. Redfish and trout love to go around areas like this, flounder too. And the redfish will go back and forth and hunting for bait as it's coming off of these creeks and off these flats. So they'll stage up out here in a little bit deeper water and sometimes go up here while they still can. Keep in mind, please pay attention to the tides and what the draft is on your boat. You don't want to be getting stuck back up here, especially if it's low tide later in the day. You might be there for a while. So you pick a couple spots to try. You got a little hole right here and a point, and you got some oysters over here. I'll try hitting some of these and work my way back as the tide goes out. Maybe hit this point right here. Definitely try these oyster bars around this creek mouth and this edge along here. If I'm not finding any fish back there, then I'll work further out. And you know that in holes like this and holes like this in corners, it's going to be deeper water. A lot of the trout and other fish like that are going to be deeper. If you go fishing early in the morning and the sun hasn't come up yet, a lot of the fish will be in these deeper holes, staging, waiting to go up further as the water warms up when the sun comes up. Keep that in mind too. So that's my strategy. I would find a creek that has similar structure to this and set a plan and just start fishing. And once you're on the water, if you see birds in a certain area, go fish by those birds. If you see bait fish getting attacked, those are indications and things you look for to find the feeding fish. So keep your mind open. Don't stick to the plan super straight. Go out there and just start fishing and you'll find a pattern. Once you find a pattern, it'll be repeatable in that creek and or in other creeks.
All right, then. That's basically how I do it in a nutshell. Sometimes there's a little bit more to it than that, but it doesn't get simpler than that. Just keep in mind, don't get too focused on a specific plan. Like, don't say, I'm going to hit this oyster bar, and then I'm going to go, this creek mouth is going to be perfect for this, and then there's a hole here. Just kind of picture an area that has all of those elements, and then fish it the way it looks when you get there. You'll have a lot more success that way. You need to be able to adapt to the conditions as they are when you're on the water. They're not going to be how they look on the map. So just keep that in mind when you go out there, and you'll have a lot more fun and you'll catch fish. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something from this. Until next time.